What's up, guys? Shuffy Database Plays here, and today we're going to be talking about the new Spider-Man PS5 game, or as it's called, Spider-Man Miles Moralas. So, yeah, in today's video I'm just going to be swinging in the background and just, yeah. So, what I think, so first off, I thought it was just going to be a sequel to this game with, you know, Peter Parker. But they jumped straight into Miles Moralas, which I think is a big leap, or if you watch Into the Spider-Verse, a big leap of faith. But yeah, I think because Into the Spider-Verse did so well with its lead character being, well, Miles, they did a bold thing, just making him the main protagonist of the second game, which I think... So listen, I think I'm personally very excited for the game. Whether it is a flop or very good, I will play it either way, because I love superhero games, and this game is one of my personal favorite games, Spider-Man PS4. So I think whether the sequel is bad or good, I will still play it. So yeah, let's just listen to what JJ has to say.
And still striking at innocent people like Oscorp CFO Charles Standish in their own homes. How? You're on with J. Jonah James.
Yeah, my cousin's a corrections officer, and he says the demons they've arrested
Okay, staying tuned. Anyway, my point is, I will play the game either way, but I'm very excited for a Miles Morales-based superhero game. We've been waiting for a Miles Morales movie, and we got it with Into the Spider-Verse. Now all we needed is a game, and now we have that game. And with Insomniac being so good with the Spider-Man PS4 game in 2018, about 2 years ago, I think they'll do good with the Miles Morales game. And they already did good with Miles' arc in this game, carrying on to the DLCs, which I've all played on my second account, but we'll be doing gameplay on this account. But anyway, the point is, yeah, I think because they already have experience with Miles, they will do good. But yeah, now I didn't mention this when I started, but I want to be going through a couple of stages, like just talking about the game. Like one, like what I think of the game and if I'm excited for it. And the answer to if I'm excited is yes. And the second stage is what do I think we'll be getting. So I don't think we'll be getting villains from this game, like Shocker. Okay, well, of course not. Well, of course not Mr. Negative or Green Goblin or stuff like that. But we won't be getting Shocker and villains like the Vulture or Electro or villains like that. And I mentioned Green Goblin by mistake. That comes on to my second opinion, or my second, you could say my second option. I can't think of the word, so second option will be it for now. Of what I think we'll be getting. So we definitely won't be getting Venom or Green Goblin, because Venom is going to be tied to Harry Osborn, and Miles doesn't have that personal connection to Harry that Peter does. So it won't be as heart-hurting, I guess you could say, for Miles as it would be for Peter, because Harry is Peter's childhood friend, and Miles barely knows the guy, not if even at all. So yeah, we definitely won't be getting the villains we thought we'd be getting in the sequel. But technically it's not a sequel to this game, it's a Miles Morales standalone game. It's not a sequel to Spider-Man PS4 or this Peter Parker game in any way. It is the first of maybe many Miles Morales games in this universe. So it is not a sequel to this game in any way. But in terms of suits, we definitely won't be getting the amazing Spider-Man suits. That is for sure. Why do I think so? Well, because number one, those are Peter Parker variations of... That is a Peter Parker suit, or suits. And do not have the affiliation with Miles Morales as it does with Peter. So, for that reason, we won't be getting those kinds of suits. Nor will we be getting the Superior Spider-Man, nor will we be getting any sort of Peter Parker-like suit. We'll be getting Miles suits. So, we'll maybe be getting the Into the Spider-Verse one, the normal version, and maybe the clothed version, the one with the hoodie and the Nikes and stuff. We could possibly be getting those. We will get the original Insomniac Miles suit. We'll get the classic Miles suit. And we'll get the modern Miles suit. And we won't be getting any symbiote suits or any symbiote variants, because symbiote is affiliated to Peter. Like I've said before, all the things that I've mentioned have been affiliated to Peter that we won't be getting in this game. So yeah, so we'll be getting new villains like Prowler and villains like those. We won't be getting any Miles-based villains. And the reason villains like Scorpion and Kingpin worked in Into the Spider-Verse is because we had a Peter Parker. And when Peter Parker died, Miles had the responsibility of taking on Peter's criminals. But in this game, Peter is not dead and he can still take on his own criminals, but Miles will have his own. And like they brought Mr. Negative, not a very well-known Spidey villain, they'll probably bring a not very well-known Miles villain. And I do not know many Miles villains, which I will show now. I only know the Prowler, so sorry, any Miles fans out there. But yeah, and we will not be getting any co-op gameplay, I do not think. We will probably be getting Peter in a couple of cutscenes, or maybe like after those cutscenes you'll be able to walk past him and stuff, and so see him standing there. But you won't be able to play as him. Now, number one, if you had the option to play as Peter, people would probably choose Peter. And that's why I don't think Insomniac would put it into their Miles Morales game, because then it's more of just Peter Parker game. Marvel Spider-Man Peter Parker, not Miles Morales, because most people probably wouldn't use Miles. And that comes to my third statement of the video. Maybe because it's such a leap of faith to just release a Miles game as
gotta check out that rooftop box.
Release the second game as a Miles Morales game, most people might not buy it. The reason being, most people do not like Miles and prefer Peter Parker. So yeah, that was a very short reason or statement. And moving on to my fourth statement, the city. So now in this game, we only have access to NYC, and we do not have access to Brooklyn. So with Miles Morales, he lives in Brooklyn, as stated in the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie. Now, I have not read any Miles comics, so I do not know if he actually lives in Brooklyn in the comics. You guys will have to let me know in the comments down below. But as I was saying, I do not think we'll have access to New York, definitely. But what about Brooklyn? Because in the Into the Spider-Verse movie, he has he lives in Brooklyn, but and maybe in the comics. But if he doesn't in the comics, then that's a whole different story, and we'll definitely not get Brooklyn. But if he does in the comics, which I should research actually, then I don't know. We should get Brooklyn. But that's like a whole separate area, like a whole separate city. And especially if this Avengers game coming out and they announce that Spider-Man, Peter Parker, is going to be in the game, not announcing that it was this Spider-Man, I don't know. But I'm very excited for this game. Please tell me in the comments down below. And that brings me to my fifth and final reason, or statement rather. The story. Now, where do I think they can go with this? They can go in many different directions, branching off and from where it will start. So now they could branch off from the exact moment in the Silver Lining DLC where Miles jumps off that gargoyle with Peter and goes to go swing. They could start from that. Or they could go a completely different route and not show that at all. And just start him maybe fighting a bad guy in a homemade suit. Maybe that could be cool. And by the way, tell me in the comments down below some interesting story ideas you have for the game.
What's the situation in Bryant?
And I think later in the game, they could have him maybe feel like he's less than Peter, which he probably already feels midway or halfway to the midway line. He could feel that he is less than Peter and he'll never be as good as Peter. But then maybe in one cutscene, have Peter tell him he was exactly like this when he started, feeling like he was less than the other heroes. But then he soon became his own hero and were completely separate from that, from who he thought he was less than. Like something like that, you know? Like show the bondance between Peter and Miles. Not just be like, oh, I knew your dad, so like we gotta be friends now. Like show how they bond, you know? Which they obviously already showed a bit in Spider-Man PS4, but show a bit more in this game, because this is of course a Miles origin story. And maybe have a flashback scene where he is alive without powers with his mom and dad. And maybe relive some of the moments from Spider-Man PS4, but from his perspective. So like when City Hall blew up in this game, we can show it from his perspective. Or even when he was getting beat up by those gangsters, I guess you could say, from his perspective, watching Peter or Spider-Man take them on. And just see what Miles' thought process is, or was, while Peter was fighting them. And I think that would be really cool. So yeah, with this game they could either tweak a few things or go a completely new route. Honestly, from a personal standpoint, I would love to see both, but tell me what you'd like to see in the comments. So anyway, that was my thoughts about Spider-Man Miles Morales. So yeah, see you guys in the next video. Bye.